These are the highlights for a very nice pizza oven I built, in which I can make a 900-degree fire that will last for hours. It uses about 16 80-pound bags of concrete, a bunch of rebar and wire, 6 boxes of 2700-degree firebrick, a bunch of 2x4s, 2x6s and sheathing, several large sheets of wire mesh, and some stucco for a nice finish. It probably weighs 1,500 pounds. It's a half-sphere igloo design with a chimney, which has been used by indigenous people for thousands of years. Air is drawn in from the entrance and exhausts up the little chimney. I burn kiln-dried pine 2x4s. That's it. That easily achieves a 900-degree fire. Pizzas normally cook in about 500 to 700 degree temperatures. They only take 6 minutes to cook, which you will see a bit later. The design is drawn on this slab of sheathing, which I got from 2x4s, 2x6s are screwed together with construction screws, which make a 4-inch thick table to support the oven igloo, which sits on a pedestal of concrete blocks, again, which you'll see later. You can see where I've run the saber saw around the perimeter. The oven interior is obvious from the circle and the entrance drawn on the sheathing. I don't think the wood is likely to warp from heat because a 2.5-inch layer of concrete and rebar will sit on top of this wood platform, and a 1.5-inch layer of 2700-degree firebrick sits on top of the concrete. So the finished table is roughly 8 inches thick. I traced around the wooden table to form a cement pad which is 4 to 5 inches deep with a nice grid of rebar. It has to hold 1,500 pounds, so a good pad is necessary to support the weight. I used flexible masonite to form the perimeter, and cement was poured into the inner cavity. The outer perimeter is just used for temporary support. I make sure the masonite form is level at the top, then lay concrete all the way to the top, and that makes a level pad. The wood on top of the pad was an early idea that didn't work out, so I just removed them. You can see the lines here. The bolts are used to attach a pedestal, which is comprised of 9 cinder blocks. I filled those cinder blocks with concrete, and you'll notice that I stopped short of filling these to the very top. This is to allow vertical rods to go through the table into a layer of cement above the table. The vertical rods will tie the table to the pedestal, so watch for these in a bit. I then wrapped the cinder blocks with wire mesh, filled that with cement, so you'll see this mesh again later. I used it for structural support of the oven dome, which is 4 inches thick. It turns out the stucco adheres nicely to this wire mesh. I secured the wire mesh tightly with wire because this is the outside of the pedestal, which must look perfect for stucco. Here you can see the vertical rebar that pins the table to the pedestal. Below this table you can see the cinder blocks covered in wire mesh. Above this table will be a 2.5-inch layer of cement and then firebrick on top of that. I just drilled through the wood and stuck rebar down into the pedestal. The string is just used to align the oven with my existing patio. I used the same flexible masonite to create a form for the table, checked it for level, just like the pad below. I did not want heat transfer to the wood table or for the wood to bend from the heat, so that's the reason for the thick cement layer and rebar grid. Now I can begin laying out firebrick, cut these bricks with a masonry saw so they don't crack. The diagonal pattern helps when running a pizza paddle over it. The edges won't catch on the fire brick, plus it looks nice. I laid the fire brick while the cement was still tacky, but not too quick or they will sink into the cement and sag. The oven dome will overlap this fire brick. It rests on the cement and the fire brick. I love these 2700 degree fire bricks. They are 3 times the rating I needed for a 900 degree fire. Wonderful. I redrew the circular oven design on the fire bricks. That'll be used soon to build the oven dome. With the cement and fire brick set, you can see a nice 8-inch table on which to set the oven dome. Now, how do you create the perfect circular half dome? I used wet play sand. These circular forms help get the shape just right. Now bear with me, I'm creating a sandcastle. You'll see why in a minute. I just threw down wet sand and patted it down by hand. Then ran these forms over the sand to get the perfect circular dome. I laid wet newspaper over the sand. Newspaper prevents cement from sticking to the sand. There's a hard front face screwed to the table so it won't move. Next to that is a slight enlargement to accommodate a front door. I stuck some big tomato cans into the sand for a chimney. Now, are you getting the point of the sand yet? I'll just cover this with cement and dig out the sand later. Then I'll have the perfect interior dome for the oven. I'll burn out the newspaper later after excavating the sand. I laid 3 layers of cement for a total thickness of 4 inches, each layer cured for about a week with the aid of a small fire. I tried Cementol, but that cracks, so don't use that. Just use ordinary concrete for all 3 layers. If I did this again, I'd use 3 layers of wire mesh overlaid with cement for each layer. As it turned out, I only used 2 layers of mesh. Use 3 if you can. You will need them. I'm sorry you don't see the wire mesh here, just wait, it's coming, you'll understand. Wire mesh adds stiffness and helps prevent micro heat cracks. Again, give ample time for each layer to cure. 1 week is recommended for each layer. Little fires will help, but don't overdo it. Keep the fire small and low heat for slow curing. Sure, I couldn't resist and cooked a few pizzas in the low curing fire. That was fun. Okay, so here you see some wire mesh. It's a Frankenstein of patchwork with 100% coverage. This is the same stuff used for stucco on houses, but in this case, think of it as rebar for curved surfaces. This is how you get structural support. Use 3 layers of this with cement over each layer. Trust me, this is very important. Now that the cement is finished, we can add a layer of stucco. So I guess that's 4 layers in total, but I doubt the stucco adds any structural support. It just looks nicer than ugly gray cement. Add a coloring agent to the stucco. Actually, stucco is designed to be laid in 3 layers: scratch coat, brown coat, and finish coat. So I'm oversimplifying. I also tossed on splatters of stucco and knocked them down with a trowel for a nice knockdown look that matched my house. It's not hard to do and worth learning if you're unfamiliar. Notice the wooden chimney cap and front door and rounding and little artistic flourishes for a traditional adobe look. I wanted that centuries-old indigenous look, not modern. All right, we're about to fire this thing. Want to see it? As I said earlier, I just burned kiln-dried 2x4s. All the good internet sites tell you to use hardwood, cherry, oak, apple, pear, and such, but I have no access to hardwoods like this, and it is expensive. Kiln-dried 2x4s can be found at if you're willing to and look like a sleazy redneck, which I am. Split the 2x4s for kindling. It burns hot and great. You'll easily get that 900-degree fire. You can cook just about anything in this, not just pizza. Use iron skillets or aluminum pans. I found that starting the fire at the entrance is best. Get yourself one of those long coal rakes. After the fire burns down, shove the coals to the back, then start another fire and burn that one down too. Shove everything to the back, and then cook in the oven cavity next to the coals. Temperatures will be around 600 degrees there. Pizzas have to be turned constantly or they will burn. They cook in 6 minutes. Now, I tried oven thermometers, but soon burned them up and blackened them until they were unusable. They're fun to start with, but you'll quickly ruin them. Now, consider putting all your ingredients in a buffet style and let people make their own pizzas. Some people like to turn their own pizzas. Now, watch this one cook. I guarantee you're going to love this.